Hello and welcome back to Age of the Classics. I'll be your host today, and my name is Bert. Today we are returning to a true classic, Meet Madeline. Today in Chapter 3, Madeline's love for Penny shines through. So let's get started. Chapter 3, Jiggy Nye's Threat. September begins the season of thunderstorms in Virginia. For the next 3 days the sky was as grey as pewter. Rain fell in sheets and the wind roared around the corners of the house. Madeline felt as trapped as Penny was in Mr. Nye's pasture. "May I go out of doors, Mother?" she asked. "In this storm?" her mother said. "Don't be a goose. The streets are all mud, and you'll be soaked to the skin in this rain. You'll just have to wait until it stops." Madeline sighed. "Maddie, my love," said her mother. Her gentle voice sounded tired. "Look at this apron you sewed. I've had to rip out the hem on it again. It's supposed to be 20 stitches to the inch, Maddie, and in a line. Yours fly all over. Your sister Nan sews more carefully, and she is but 6 years old." "I'm sorry, Mother. Indeed I am," said Madeline. "My hands just won't go slow." Mrs. Merriman patted Madeline's hands and handed her the apron. "You will have to teach your hands to slow down, my girl." Madeline held up the apron and shook her head sadly. "All these miles and miles of stitches, they're never finished." "Slow and steady, my child. They'll be done faster if you do them right, so that you do not have to sew every seam twice. Remember, haste makes waste." "Haste makes waste," Madeline repeated. She and her mother had to smile at each other, for Madeline was told that haste makes waste at least once every day of her life. She settled down to her stitching and tried very hard to be careful, for a little while. At last the sun broke through the clouds, and Madeline was allowed to go outside. "Take these preserves to Mrs. Dear," said her mother. "Norn and William will go with you. They've been cooped up too." Madeline tried to hide her disappointment. She wanted to go see Penny by herself. She didn't want Nan and William dragging along. They were so slow, and she was so eager to see Penny, but she had no choice. William toddled along on his fat little legs, dragging a stick through the mud. He stopped to pick up stones and drop them in puddles. He seemed to be trying to get as much mud on his shoes as he could. Nan walked in little ladylike steps, picking her way carefully around the puddles. Madeline was forever having to turn around and wait for careful Nan and muddy William. "Oh, Lily," said Nan, "look at that fine milliner's window. It has a whole bouquet of flowers on it. Let's go in and look at it." "No, come on, Nan," said Madeline. "I don't want to waste time with that foolishness." Nan was missed for a while, but she cheered up and put on her sweetest face when they reached Mrs. Dear's house. Mrs. Dear gave Nan and William each a cake, and she fussed over them until Madeline thought she'd burst with impatience. Then, when they were at last on their way to the tannery, Nan announced, "I want to go home. I want to not go any further." "Nan," Felicity said sternly, "we're going to the tannery. Come along." "No," said Nan. "The tannery smells too. I won't go." She stuck out her lip. "Oh, I want to," said William. Madeline had an idea. "Nan," she said slowly, "there are a lot of flowers by the tannery. You can pick them and put them in your hat, so it will look just like the one in the milliner's window. Won't that be fine?" "Well, perhaps," said None. "But I won't speak to that dirty old Mr. Nye. He's bad." "Bid," repeated William. He swung his sticks as if they were swords. Madeline led them along past Mr. Nye's house to the pasture, and there was Penny. She was thinner, and her coat was even more matted and dirty. There was a cut, red, on one leg as if she had hurt it trying to jump over the fence. Mr. Nye had tied Penny to a stake. Oh, the poor horse was straining at the rope, pawing at the ground, jerking and tossing her head. "Horse," said William. "Yes," said Madeline. "Her name is Penny, because she's the colour of a penny and because she's so independent." "What does independent mean?" asked None. "It means she has a free spirit," said Madeline. "Penny wants to run." Madeline climbed up on the pasture fence. "Don't go near," warned None. "She won't hurt me. She'll never hurt me," said Madeline. She called to Penny softly, slowly. "Penny, Penny, love, look here. Look what I've brought you." Madeline tossed a lump of sugar close to Penny's nose. "So much sugar, Maddie," said None. "Where did you get it?" "Hush," said Madeline. She didn't take her eyes off of Penny. "And don't tell about it when we get home, or—" "So!" Mr. Nye's voice crept in her ear. Madeline's heart stopped. Mr. Nye grabbed her by the shoulders and pulled her down off the fence. None knelt next to William and held him tight. "You're a little sly, red-headed chit, aren't ye?" said Mr. Nye. "Did I tell ye to stay away from me horse?" Madeline yanked herself out of his grasp. "I'm not hurting her," she said. "This horse be none of your business, you hears me?" growled Mr. Nye. "She's a vicious animal, I tell ye. She's not that fixed down trying to jump out of the pastures. I had to tie her up, I did. I don't want you spooking her. Stay away, you hear?" Madeline was frightened, but she was also angry. "You are the one who scares that poor horse," she said to Mr. Nye. "You have no right to treat her so badly." Mr. Nye grabbed Madeline again, but just then Penny whinnied wildly. "Quiet, she's nag!" Mr. Nye shouted at Penny. He picked up a big stick and climbed into the pasture. As he came near, Penny reared. With a mighty pull, she broke the rope that tied her. Mr. Nye lost his balance and fell back into the dirt. He shook his fist at Penny as she ran away to the far end of the pasture. "You worthless nag!" Mr. Nye yelled after Penny. His face was splattered with mud. "I'm giving anyone who can rise these, I say! Anyone can have these! Hears me?" Mr. Nye stomped toward his house. Suddenly he turned towards Madeline and snarled, "And you! Get yourself and your breath out of here, you hear? I'll skin you alive, I will! If I see you again." Then he stormed off. None was crying. Let's go, please," she begged. She pulled on Madeline's petticoats and dragged her away. Madeline looked back to see Penny galloping around the pasture. At least Penny was not tied to the stake anymore. She was fenced in, but she could run and move. "Good for you, Penny," thought Madeline. "Don't let Mr. Nye scare you. I won't let him scare me." At supper time, it was William who gave it away. "Big horse," he said. "Bad one." He waved his spoon wildly. "Shh," hissed None. "What's all this?" asked Mother. "You've not been out to see that horse of Ginny Nye's, have you?" "Madeline made a scoop," said None, "and the horse made Mr. Nye fall down in the mud. Then Mr. Nye called the nurse and and he said anyone could take her if he could ride her. And he said he would skin us alive if we ever came back." scolded Mrs. Merriman.
It's not proper to repeat such talk.
She looked at Madeline and her face was serious.
Jiggy and I told you not to come back, and you won't, ever. His tannery is not a place for children.
He was going to strike the horse with a big stick, added Non.
Man's a villain of the worst sort,
muttered Mr. Merriman.
A horse beater.
Ben spoke up. He'll kill the horse, sir, he said. Mark me, he will. Oh, Father, cried Madeline, we can't let Mr. Nye hurt Penny. We've got to help her. We've got to get away from Mr. Nye. Can't we buy her?
Gracious, no!
exclaimed her mother.
We've Lord Bess for your father to ride, and Blossom to draw the cart.
Bess is so slow, it's faster if you walk yourself, said Madeline.
Young lady,
said Mrs. Merriman,
it would not harm you to go more slowly in all things, stitches and speeches and thinking too.
Mr. Merriman spoke gently.
We've no need for a troublesome horse like that, my child. It would be useless to us too. No one wants a horse that cannot be ridden. Besides, Marcus has enough to do with old Bess and Blossom. He does not have time to care for another horse.
But I would take care of her, pleaded Madeline eagerly. I would tame her and teach her. Oh, I'd do everything. Bean looked up. Mrs. Merriman sighed.
Maddie, my impatient, headstrong Maddie, you have not the patience to sew a seam properly. You leave your writing practice half done. You lead your sister and brother to dangerous places and never stop to think. A willful girl and a willful horse is more than one family can handle. You must put that horse out of your head. Do you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, Madeline answered, for it was true. She did hear what Mother had to say, but she did not put that horse out of her head or her heart. This concludes Chapter 3. Join us next week as we read Chapter 4, Ben's Promise. As always, we thank you for joining us on Age of Classics. And remember, if it's not classic and it's not age, it's not Age of the Classics. Thank you. We'll see you next time.